Good Sunday morning. Welcome to All Lacrosse Live. It's breakfast with the boys again. Thank you all for joining us so early today on your Sunday morning. I have a plane to catch as soon as this show is over. So I appreciate everybody getting up early, and here we go. Like I was saying, the Rebeski tournament starts this week. And if you look carefully, you'll see that they're under support. Rah. Here we go. But am I excited, Mike? Let's go. Bags are sitting in the hallway. It's basically off into Uber, and away we go. And there we are in Iceland later today, and over into Prague in the morning. And I'm getting jealous because I'm seeing all these pictures. Women's box is going on right now. Michelle Boyer is there with the Team Canada. When I arrive at the Raditon rink on Monday, Canada will be playing England, so it'd be really cool to catch that and meet up with her face-to-face as well. I've seen Sean Evans. He was my guest on Thursday's show, and he's over there with the Swiss Chocolax team because he's also coaching the regular Swiss team for the Utica Box Championships. But he's going to be playing with Chocolax, and he was in there, I believe, yesterday, and sending back pictures of downtown Prague, and it's like, God, I remember those. So it's awesome. It's only a few hours away. So next week, Pat will be in my chair, and he will be taking over the show for a week. And the following week, we will have our second annual anniversary, as the show will be on for 2 years. Ironically, next week will be the first show I've missed. So figures it's 1 week before the 2-year anniversary. But anyways, just a reminder to everybody that all the shows are streamed across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And you can also catch all the action on EOPsports.com. Remember to hit the subscribe, follow, and like buttons. Always share. Enjoy all of our affiliates. There are more shows coming all the time. We'll be talking about another show that is just been started and is taking off with Fire Trending in the AM in just a minute. If you missed a show, no worries. You can grab all the podcasts and all the major podcasting companies, which include Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, and so much more. You can also catch all the shows on YouTube at the EOP YouTube page, EOP Sports. Or if you're looking for our stuff in particular, you can go to the All Across All the Time YouTube page. And when I get back from Prague, there will be 3 or 4 more retro games up as well as lots of interviews, fights, our entire library as well. So please go over there, tell your friends about it. Please subscribe while you're there. Remember, you can stay up to date with all sports by visiting EOPsports.com with great articles from our huge staff of contributors. While you're there, please subscribe to our newsletter. Well, I know it's in the morning here, but it is evening already over in Prague. Time for a Toronto Rock lager. I was alluding to Trending in the AM, a show that's just started up on EOP Sports with Phil Stifel. Great show. Get your day started off on EOPsports.com and have a look at this show where your opinions actually matter. Lots of news, lots of things going on. Great show. It's going to be a fantastic addition to the EOP network of shows. So please give it a look. One thing to remind you about is coming up in July is the 3rd annual McDougall Celebrity Game and entire day memorial. Junior A game at 3 p.m. The Celebrity Game is at 6 p.m. with all kinds of names from all sports. Usually a whole bunch of surprises in there as well. Last year, it even went into overtime, and a friend of the show and a friend of mine, Sean Ferris, got the overtime goal, Georgia coach. Beer garden and live music also July 6th over at the Rock Athletic Center. I believe it's only $10 to get in. Money well spent. It's going towards helping kids and Oakville Minor Lacrosse, as well as a number of other programs. So please, if you're anywhere in the area, please give it a thought and please show up. Now, Mike, I got to get this one off my chest because this has been bugging me for a couple of days. Ever since I've seen this hack in this silly article that had absolutely no bearing and no nothing to it, even though we're giving them a platform by actually saying something. Rochester Nighthawks, they're not moving. They just came out with this little tidbit themselves about new season tickets for the 24-25 season with a $50 deposit. I doubt they're going to take your $50 and run. So, no, there's no bearing. There's no sources. There's no nothing other than an opinion. Even the Nighthawks put across a statement saying the recent rumors and speculation with the Rochester Nighthawks relocation are not true. The team is focused on their remaining games this weekend and looking to finish the season strong. Season tickets for next season are now on sale. For more information on tickets, please reach out to the Nighthawks front office. When I read further into that, they're talking about Grand Rapids, which actually has less population than Rochester. And the reasoning from this particular writer was, well, that's where the owners are from. Well, then they'd know better than to put it there. That's my argument to that. Then Missouri came up, and I looked at a few things in there saying that they said that there were no teams there. So I guess the Kansas City Chiefs are not a team. The Kansas City Royals are not a team. The St. Louis Blues are not a team. The St. Louis Cardinals are not a team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when somebody pressed for sources, of course, oh, I got to keep them secret. Well, when you don't have any, that's usually what you say. So that's about all the merit I will give to this nonsense.
Yeah, and I would add, I believe Kansas City there. I believe there's a handful of cities, and it's probably why certain cities maybe are not being looked at by the NLL beyond just, hey, does it work with our business model? That's the reason that the Riptide are moving, because the Coliseum had nothing to do with perceived lack of attendance. It had everything to do with
tearing down the building.
The owners of the Coliseum did not want to renew the lease. And I'm not even sure that the speculation about the Coliseum being torn down is even true. I believe there's speculation that it may just be repurposed by the new owners.
Right.
So,
Eduardo is with us also. Thank you, Eduardo.
I'm not sure there's any insiders anywhere that truly know what's going on with that building. But the point is, they did not extend the lease for next year to the Riptide, and other venues were not willing to work within the NLL business model or the Riptide, within the parameters that the Riptide needed to.
Well, the rent was ridiculous.
Viable. So
the rent was ridiculous. It made the Toronto rent look easy, and that was insane. What MLSE was going to try and charge Jamie Dollar.
Yeah, and when I'm talking about other venue, I'm talking about people.
Barclays.
Well, why not Barclays, or why not UBS Arena in Belmont? Well, they didn't want to play ball with the NLL. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So
and there's many more viable options, even if they were moving. We've already discussed Laval. We've discussed Quebec City. We've discussed Winnipeg. We've discussed Edmonton. We've discussed a lot of things in the region, let alone places that are obscure. So, I wouldn't give that any more merit than it has been given already.
True.
And as far as I'm concerned, it has now been put to bed until somebody gives me some concrete evidence. Other than that, it just plain doesn't exist to me. And I'll see you in Rochester for the playoffs if they win today.
Yeah, and like I said, I believe Kansas City is one of that handful of cities that if there were to be a team there, I believe the ownership would automatically revert to, via bylaws or an old contract clause, it would revert to one of the original owners of the Eagle Pro Box Lacrosse League.
Right, so we're staying out of there.
Yeah, either Fritz or Klein. So,
right. Let's get on to some other things here. Some better news. Paul Gate. He had his number retired over in Syracuse. Long awaited for that. It happened to be Syracuse versus Virginia. Couldn't get a better game, too. So just a few little things from there. Now the brothers' shirts and their numbers sit side by side in banners, which is the way it should be.
Absolutely.
And quite the ceremony. Quite the ceremony. Well deserved. You just touched on this. End of an era, small era, but end of an era. Way bye-bye to the New York Riptide. who are now moving to Nepean, Ottawa. The Black Bears or Red Bears or
Black
some
Bears.
bears, polar bears.
Black Bears. They
Yeah.
are not out of it yet, though.
No, they could still get in if Rochester loses today. They may be coming to Toronto or Hamilton, to be more specific, for a first round matchup. But we will get into all of that in a little bit. Another affiliation. We talked about Orangeville and the Owen Sound team of major series with an affiliation. Well, Burlington Chiefs and the Hamilton Bengals of the Senior B also now have an affiliation, which is fantastic. Gives Burlington players a chance to continue playing if they haven't already been drafted somewhere else. It's too bad that Shawn is a little bit under the weather and he couldn't put his 2 cents on this one. Kitchener-Waterloo introduced Jake Boudreau as their new defensive coach, current NLL with the Saskatchewan Rush. Saskatoon Rush, interesting. Transition Player of the Year from 2019. A couple of milestones, a few of them. Nick Rose with his weekly one. This is actually from last week, but now he's at 109 wins, second on the all-time list for wins. Still want to tell me he's not goalie of the year? He actually is looking at the trifecta, right? He had the best save percentage, most shots, and all the other things that go along with it. So I just there's robbery if he doesn't win the goalie of the year this year. He's also looking at probably the MVP award this year. So one or the other. Alex Simmons is 6th all-time in the rookie list in NLL history with his point total. What a way to break into the league, eh?
Yeah.
Though it looked like he wasn't going to make it through that game, man. That hit he took in the beginning of the game yesterday. He looked rather concussed on the bench, but obviously not. He passed protocol and played the rest of the game. But wow.
Yeah, and that's good news for the Firewolves to not lose.
Well, yes, the Firewolves
likely rookie of the year right as you enter the playoffs. So,
yeah, those are just things you don't want to see. And a 5-minute penalty, they paid for it. They did pay for it. 2 quick goals. Anyways, we'll get into that also. Clark Peterson, congratulations on his first 100-point season. He had a great game yesterday. Really, really. I don't know how many behind the back passes he had to Randy Stotts, but at least 3 of them made it in the net. They were pretty amazing. TD Erlin with his 800th career faceoff win. Just an absolute juggernaut there. We have some absolutely gifted faceoff guys, Mike, in this league. You know, we talk about Baptiste all the time, but since his coming into the league, you know, between Nardella, Erlin, and the list goes on and on. We could talk about Max Adler for Joe Post. You know, these are just up-and-comers that are just fantastic face-off guys.
And I believe, I was going to say Withers, and I believe Tim Edwards is now the Colorado Mammoth all-time face-off wins leader. He passed Jamie Hanford like a week or 2 ago.
Right.
So that's quite an accomplishment as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. It's just very, very deep now. And they're not just Fogos. That's the beauty of it. These guys are actually playing defense, doing transition, scoring, being big helps to the team. It's not just taking up a position spot to get possession, which is huge. The difference between yesteryear and now. The athleticism is absolutely off the charts. Now, we both saw this Friday night, and Aiden Walsh was in the net, left the net. Aaron Bowl went in the net, then Aaron Bowl left the net, and Aiden Walsh went back in the net. Well, that was to give Aaron Bowl his 267th career game, 9th all-time on the list. Not to speculate if he's retiring or not, but this puts him up there for sure in that list. So, classy move by Kurt Milowski, and great idea. Get that out of the way just in case. Adam Charlamavides, he got his 200th point in that game. So another big accomplishment. But I saved the best for last, Mike. Dane Smith, 101 assists. It's a single season record. He's been sniffing at this for the last couple of years and coming ever so close. And well, he just went bat crazy last night in the second half. And he basically was attached to almost everything that Buffalo did. And 101 assists for the year. Pretty wild.
Yep.
Just before we move on, we have new ads, guys. So we got to show them with you guys. So our first one, of course, we're going to go with Sherry's Tickets.
Great moments don't just happen, they happen with you in the crowd. Sherry'sTickets.com is easy to use and has no hidden fees. The price you see is the price you pay. Pay less, play more with Sherry'sTickets.com and get the tickets you want. Save even more by using the exclusive promo code EOP10 and share an experience that will live on. Don't pay hidden fees and save 10%. Why use any other ticket reseller and get those hard-to-come-by tickets to the big game? If you need a more personal touch, give them a call at 610-494-5050. Sherry'sTickets.com also has great theater and concert tickets that are hard to get your hands on. Remember, don't overpay with the rest and save with the best at Sherry'sTickets.com. For that next great moment, save 10% by using the promo code EOP10. Great moments start at Sherry'sTickets.com.
Sherry's Tickets, and you can go check them out just about anywhere. I've even checked it here in Toronto, and I can still get tickets for stuff here. So I don't know if it just goes regionally or whatever, but give it a look. And all kinds of great deals, no hidden fees. You definitely want to go and check that out, especially with playoffs coming now.
Yep.
All right, let's get this out of the way, Mike. I know you're not so hot into saying this one, but one of us had a huge come from behind thing. Now, the only reason I'm doing this now and not after today's game, well, two reasons. One, I won't be here, but number two, we all had Philadelphia picked, so it really doesn't matter what happens in that game for the pick'ems. And if we look, Pat went 3-4 so far. I went 4-3. Mike and Shawn 3-4. Eduardo 2-5. And if we look at the totals, even though I didn't move the name up, I came from behind and took the regular season crown with 81-53. Maybe now with Rochester with this incentive, it'd be 81-54. But it is what it is. But great year by all of us. Some fantastic picking for 134 games. That's an awful lot of pretty good percentage. I think the average here is just over 65%. So you may not get your new house because you're taking our picks, but if you're doing it sporadically and picking correctly of our picks, you could be making a lot of money because we're not. Anyways, let's get into the games, Mike. We had 7 of them to this point and one more 3 o'clock Eastern this afternoon, which all of a sudden has a lot of meaning. And,
yes.
It's funny because, we're talking about this and we've been talking back and forth all week, and you've been going crazy doing numbers and scenarios and, trying to figure out, in consultation with both MIT and Nassau, and they both sent messages with white flags going, please keep us out of this next year, because they're all tired now and half of their computers are burnt out as well. But Rochester had a 3% chance of making the playoffs heading into this weekend. They basically needed buildings to fall down and the earth to open up for them to get in. Well, I guess buildings fell down and the earth mostly opened up because now it's in their hands. They win today and they're in. They lose and New York takes their spot. So pretty amazing. What do you think?
Oh yeah.
Just,
but I believe it was well, the NLL posted, and this is correct, it was 256 possible scenarios going into the weekend, but when you take out the Buffalo Vegas game, which really didn't impact much else beyond Buffalo basically, whether they had a home game or not for the playoffs, that cuts the scenarios in half right there.
Yeah.
And out of those 128 scenarios, there were literally only 4 ways where Rochester made the playoffs. And here we are looking at one of them in action later
down to
today.
2 scenarios,
So, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. For the league to impose this and to have this on the very first year, where I was amazed last week when I was, bringing this up, and there was 32,000 different possibilities going into last week's games. And then, and this has to happen. If that happens, it's like jazz to classical music. You can do this and you can do that, and you can't do this and that in classical, but you can do this, you can do that, but you can do this, that, and the other. If you do this, that, and the other, and the other. And that's exactly what we were going through here. This team will make it if this team and that team, this team, that team, this team, and the other does this. This was going on all week, and Mike was diligent in putting up all these things as the games ended yesterday with scenarios and how things are clearing up. So kudos, Mike. Well done. That's just a ton of extra work, and really appreciate it.
I have to thank Shawn a bit too. He took a few for me, so it got a little overwhelming, but here we are.
I can see that because it's crazy. And then we're all going back in our notes and, all trying to go back through group messages and stuff like that. If this is correct or that's correct. And, what about, there's this one. And so for it to come out and to be on top of it like it is, and that just shows the diligence of this group. And I'm so proud to be a part of it. So, all right, let's get to some of these games, and let's talk about the first game on the agenda. Of course, is Rochester and Georgia from Friday night, and Fields leads the way with 4 goals, 4 assists, keep the Nighthawks alive for the playoffs. Hugh Nuts 3 goals, 5 assists in the loss. Rochester sneaks away with an 11-10 win. It didn't look that way for a while, though. That's the crazy thing about all of this. Yeah. So let's look at the highlights, and then we will come back and discuss it.
He's looked the part so far.
Battled concussions all year, has Ryland. Oh, bounce shot finds its home. 2-0 Rochester. Connor Fields is on the board tonight. Mark will instead stay at 2-0 and will wipe off the second goal of the year for Ryland Reese. Lau Thompson sealed out, getting everything he can handle from Mitch Ogilvy. And a score! How about that? Something from nothing. Well, 9 games without seeing a penalty shot. Now we're going to see 2 in the first period. Fields does it again. Right down on top of Dobson. Connor Fields has the hat trick this evening.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Oh, no doubt about it. But, when Angus Goodleaf was called on, he was really good as well.
There's a shot that gets through. Broadcaster jinx. Connor Fields, number 4.
That's a bad giveaway.
Thomas Whitty. Give off. Look out. Score! Would have been playing the playoffs for the last month because of the teams that we faced and how we gave away some games early in the year. We still needed wins as well. Thompson. Cross floor to Q.
Don't forget about that last save there by Dobson against McConvey to keep it within 3
Cole!
And now 2.
A young guy they like a whole lot. His potential. He's only played, this his 6th game appeared in. 3 goals, 5 assists. Q sees him and instead takes the shot and knocks it home. A hattie for Q.
And Dobson started running off, and I think they said, no. The math doesn't work out. You're going back.
Thompson tries to shovel. Oakes goes behind the back. Seth Oakes. Highlight reel type stuff for Seth Oakes. That year. He's number 1 according in power play goals for rookies. Number 7 in power play assists. All right on Dobson, who lost his balance, fell to his keister, and Rochester's taken the lead.
These big emotions, we're not going to get those big emotions out of Eddie, but I figured maybe the guys would be, really high, really low, whatever it may be, but they're not. I talked to Brian. I'll let you take it out, Chris.
Ryan Smith, Lauren, let me interrupt you just really quick. Ryan Smith has just scored. It's another tally for Smith. He's starting to come alive. Rochester leads 11-10.
Well, a few things here. Number 1, Nighthawks took advantage in the first half of a really really sloppy Georgia play. They do that against Buffalo next week in the playoffs, and they'll be watching the rest of the playoffs. When you take, was it 4 penalties in a row, all in a span of like a minute, which yields 2 penalty shots, both of which Connor Fields scores on. Not good. No, the rest of their the power play, they were able to stave off. Otherwise, this could have gotten really ugly really early. Hartley looked really great in that first half. He looked like Hartley of old. Again, what I was saying from the week earlier in Toronto. So he looks more and more comfortable every time I see him. I'm not more comfortable every time I see him, but he looks more comfortable every time I see him. The second half, Georgia played a much cleaner defensive game, barely giving any turnovers whatsoever. Andrew Q finally caught fire. He scored 3 in the third and really made this a tight game. To the Nighthawks' credit, they kept battling. And who told Mitch Ogilvie he's a scorer? Like he was going to the net as though this was his normal thing. He's just like 2 goals on the year, both in this game. he missed with another 2 just by mere inches. Let alone Whitty and a few of the other guys. All of a sudden, Rochester has a transition game that's scary good. But with just 2:43 left, Ryan Smith puts the Rochester Nighthawks ahead. The Swarm tried to make a comeback, but Hartley and the Rochester defense were up for the challenge. 11-10 is the victory, and that was the first box ticked in many that needed to happen for them this weekend. What do you figure, Mike?
Yeah, obviously, no, we're not sitting where we're sitting if they don't pull out the win. And just to go back to Georgia, we've talked for so long about how important this 5-game homestand was to end the season, and that they needed to be able to take advantage. Obviously, it's a little disappointing because with the loss, they're now going to be on the road for a playoff game. I believe it will be in Buffalo. I believe it'll be the 4-5 game. So
that is correct.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough task, but
what a place to wind up, right?
Yeah, and obviously,
if a team that can do it though.
I think so. I think they're going to give Buffalo all they can handle. This is definitely not going to be a gimme for Buffalo, even though the home advantage helps. They've already beat them. They beat them earlier in the year, so and that's not exactly. These aren't exactly
great defensive game. They shut down that.
Yeah. I was going to say these aren't exactly 2 teams that went through drastic changes and are suddenly completely different teams from when they first met. Whatever it was, 15 weeks ago. So,
it was just before New Year's because I was at that game in the press box, and I'm telling you, it was a barn burner of a game. But to Georgia's credit, they had a real good defensive scheme that was able to take Byrne and take Smith out of the equation. All the guys were in there. They were all healthy at that time. It wasn't one of those half the Buffalo team is injured. They were all in. And Matt Vince and Brett Dobson both played great. I believe it was 8-7 or 9-7. It was a great game. But I look forward to seeing something of the same this coming weekend. And Banditland will be rocking. There will be 19,000 again.
Yeah.
So, looking at the boards this morning, the Bandit fans are already clamoring where to get tickets if they're not season ticket holders. So, that they'll be released as quickly as humanly possible.
Right.
But yeah, Georgia, they're looking to finally get a playoff game at home for the first time in about 4 years. So to do that, they actually have to get by Buffalo. And if they do, barring Halifax getting by, they might wind up with Toronto in the next round. So it's no easy feat. So
no,
but Toronto actually has to get by their opponent too, right? So, and that's no easy feat either, whether it's Rochester or New York. 1-game elimination. Fields gets hot, or Teat gets hot, and anything can happen. That's why I like 2 out of 3. Usually, the flukiness comes out. But anyways, let's move on. the next game on our agenda was Vancouver and San Diego. And the game meant nothing for San Diego and meant all kinds for Vancouver. And they picked a bad time to lay an egg in the second half. Dixon nets a hat trick, moves into 7th all-time in the goals list as Seals get a big home victory. I can't say it means nothing for San Diego because they came in with a real junker the week previous in Saskatchewan. They really looked outclassed and old and slow. So they needed to come with something. And having Curtis Dixon, having Drew Belgrave back in the lineup, I think invigorated that lineup some. When you can sit out a guy like Jacob Dunbar, you know how deep you are.
Yep.
On offense. Well, let's look at the highlights, and then we'll come back and talk about the game.
For Vancouver, Marcus Clarich and Anthony Kalinich. Wesley Berg off the feed from Curtis Dixon, and it's 1-0 San Diego.
Foot on the gas and get out on the hands. So good recognition there.
Jackson working on Willman. Oh, man! Welcome back to the lineup, Kyle Jackson. Jackson, the 3 goal scorers for San Diego. Martel, the 1 for Vancouver. Here's Dixon. Adds another one. Flying through the middle.
Happening, but you know, I feel like with the last game of the regular season, you want to have those set roster pieces in place.
Oh, Keegan Ball with a missile around the defender. 2 games. Doby trying to get one away, deflected by Mitski. And Kyle Jackson sneaking around the cage.
To that, moving your feet. But my goodness, they've knocked down so many passes and shots I've lost count.
Martel with the first half hat trick as he stings the high corner. Down, gets back to his feet. Still 20 seconds in the shot clock. Now feeds Leclerc, diving and scoring. Empty net for the Seals. 6-on-5. Berg to Stotts. Dixon scores! With 1.9 seconds on the clock, Curtis Dixon passes Colin Doyle.
Great all night long. No better example than Cameron Holding.
Curtis Dixon, a game-high 5 points in the first half, and he gets it past Walsh.
To prevent Curtis Dixon from getting a hat trick here tonight.
San Diego cleans up after the faceoff, trailing down. Danny Logan scores again! From Leclerc for a moment, now off to Martel. Wheeling up top, Ball beats O'Riglieri, second for Keegan Ball, and another big goal for Vancouver as
The ball in the net, but just stepped in the crease a little bit too soon.
penalty is released, and Trey Leclerc beats the shot clock. Chris O'Riglieri has been the best statistically at stopping uncontested one-on-ones this year. Keegan Ball with a big chance. Ball sticks it. Third for Ball and a huge one for closer than that. Stotts has his first of the night. It's always a matter of time. Back from Reed Bowering. Jackson using his speed, scores! Cerny. Berg throws one around the world, and Walsh is there. A desperately needed save, 2-on-1, Grant, Ball. They're not done yet. 4 for Keegan Ball. O'Riglieri has another save. Empty net, Wesley Berg, the birthday boy. It's a race to the cage.
Happy birthday, Westberg.
Happy birthday. 3 for the captain, and that should all but wrap it up for San Diego. Races back, Logan misfires on what would have been his first career hat trick, and Stotts for good measure number 50.
Well, a few takes out of this one. Hey, when Vancouver came back and tied at 5-5, I thought to myself, maybe.
Same here.
But the backbreaker, I think, wasn't the 2 goals just after that. It was the 1.9 seconds left in the half, and Curtis Dixon with a shot, a bullet that basically went through Walsh to make it 8-5. Anytime you score at the end of a half, end of a quarter, it's a backbreaker. This one, just that much more because it became a daunting thing. And then, of course, the second half and the Seals woke up and they just went to town. Stotts played a lot better. Something I noticed, though, was he was starting to get calls against him for embellishments, something that a lot of us have seen all through his career. And if they're starting to call that now, maybe he stops doing that. And then he becomes scary good because he will actually concentrate on playing all the time. And when he does, he's a freight train. He is a detriment when he starts flipping and flopping. Big body like that going to fall down when a wind comes by. That shouldn't be. But when he actually settles down to play, as you can see, he is just amazing and has been his whole career, junior onward. So hopefully he settles down and keeps playing like that. And Dixon looking great. Westberg, the birthday boy, looking great. It was bobblehead night, Westberg bobblehead. I think the first 600 people in got a Westberg bobblehead. So pretty cool in there. Other than Keegan Ball and maybe Adam Charlton-Beatties, the rest of the team looked like they went on vacation. All the things that were working well the last number of weeks weren't happening in this game. We kind of had a little bit of month and a half ago. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, it's obviously it's unfortunate for Vancouver. But unfortunately it's also become kind of the.
It was in their hands to get in the
playoffs. Yeah. It's become the theme of week 21 here that each team that's next in line seems to be squandering their chance at a playoff spot. Panther City did clinch as a result.
Isn't that strange?
Of the San Diego win did clinch. So their game maybe had a little bit different meaning to it, but I can't. I can't view this Vancouver Warriors season as any sort of failure. I think.
Hell no!
A little bit, a little bit of props need to be given for the turnaround they had. I mean, they were 2-8, and they nearly climbed back to
they were dead as doornails.
So I mean, to do that, honestly, this
2
is
months
no
ago you told me they were going to vie for a playoff spot. I would have thought you were nuts if you were telling me they were vying for a playoff spot 2 months ago.
Really, they're this year's version of Georgia from last year. Really. So just to just kind of turn things around and find a way to get it together to win 6 of your last 8 and have yourself in position for a playoff spot the final weekend of the regular season. It's impressive, and I think now that the players are starting to buy in to Coach Milosky's philosophies, the fans are starting to buy in that this team, is trending in the right direction. I think a lot of the roster is going to be retained for next year. So they're going to be able to get a fresh start, and if they can have a better start to the season.
Attendance has never been better in Vancouver in years.
If they can have a better start to the season,
in the last,
then they can.
Can you imagine?
They can be a contender next year. There's no reason
they can also wind up with attendance the size of Calgary easily. If they're having a season like this and they're getting 9, 10, 11,000, you put a winning team in there and it starts catching fire down there. There's already a hotbed of lacrosse summer-wise. If these guys start coming out winter-wise, you're going to get 13, 14 for these games, and that's going to be another bandit land West Coast because they're in for the party there. So it's a loud place already.
Yep.
So there's a lot of bright side there, and kudos to Kurt Milosky and how he's put this together. And I look forward to seeing what they do next year and in the off season for the final pieces because they're a young team. And I like that he went from Bold to Walsh and got his feet wet while Bold was still there to mentor and have the defense grow as well with Walsh as the guy behind there making the calls. So everybody's used to what's going on. So it won't be a culture shock next year.
Yep.
All right, just before we go on to our next game, just a reminder, this part of the show is brought to you by Philly Sports Trips.
If you're a Philly sports fan and you want to travel with your favorite team, then travel with the best. If you want to travel with the pros, then go to phillysportstrips.com. Philly Sports Trips features premium travel and tailgating experiences for the best fans ever the Philadelphia sports fan. Philly Sports Trips has self-travel packages and full travel packages available with round-trip flights for Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, and even the Union. They even offer day trips for more local games. Go to phillysportstrips.com, sign up immediately, and tell them EOP sent you. Do not forget, Philly Sports Trips has all the away trips for the Eagles' upcoming 2024 season, including the Brazil trip week 1. Jump on it now before you lose out on all these great opportunities. Go to phillysportstrips.com and don't miss the next great Philly sports moment.
Absolutely. All right, our next game was, it didn't seem to mean much on paper, Colorado and Halifax, but don't tell these guys that. Man, they do not like each other one little bit. Randy Stotts led the way with a hattie to thrill capacity crowd at the Nest. McLaughlin, that's 3 goals in a loss. Over 10,000 there. Tell me that it's not a hotbed there. That place is incredible. And I look forward to it being one of my stops next year. I'm looking at Georgia being one of the stops as well. So just trying to plan out my time. I haven't even left for Prague yet. Already I'm planning other trips and how to get there. So I may have to get the thumb out and start hitchhiking though. Gas prices are through the roof over here, so fuel prices will be for planes too. But let's give a look at this Colorado-Halifax game, and then we will come back and discuss some of it.
The Halifax Thunderbirds come in off a loss to Vancouver. Would have liked to win out the streak. Tarasenko answers back with a bang! And the Thunderbirds tie it up just a couple of seconds later. Jameson steps out as a pair in behind Carlson. Jameson scores! Called his own number, and the captain buries to tie it.
Can do that in their reviews, but not here. So
Halifax power play, 6th in the NLL, and waste no time, Thied scores! Nice pass, Jameson scores! What a behind-the-back look as the veterans come together, and Jameson buries it. Dinesh moves it over. Little double pop dunk! Oh my! What a goal! To Peterson. 100-point plateau for Peterson. Nice pass to Stott scores! Stott's turn to Barry off a nice setup. There's 6 minutes left in the third and just 50 seconds remaining on the power play. Peterson to Stott scores! I'm seeing double as they set it up behind the back for Stotts again. Always enjoy a good seafood boil in the Maritimes, but things are really bubbling to the top here in this one between these two teams. And what a nice move on a goal from McLaughlin, shorthanded.
hold, so his offense is going to get a chance here on the power play.
What a finish on a pretty setup. Clark Peterson scores on the power play backdoor after some quick passing. Garrison around. And Hill reaches back. Did that go in? Zed Williams said it did. I think Hill put it in himself. Zed Williams got the bounce off of Hill. Stotts again. Stotts got it back. Jameson directing traffic. Peterson to Stotts. She scores! That duo working magic. And Stotts has a power play goal.
You know, on that goal that was disallowed for a second there when Warren Hill kicked it into his net, and the ref is behind. What is he watching? The thing hit mesh. It was in front of him, and it never mind. Anyways, the way this game started, with like 3 goals in like under a minute. So, oh boy, better put a seatbelt on for this one. But wow, these teams really don't like each other. That was
I think things got chippy pretty quick. Even with
let's see if I can just find it here quickly. But the Jeffrey Brock fight was a little tilt. It didn't look good for a couple of the Halifax guys. Tyson Bell, Brock, all went to the dressing room at one point or another. They all came back, but it looked like a lot of guys were feeling it this weekend, especially in games that don't mean anything. How do you explain that to your fan base if you lose a player for the playoffs? I'll get into this again when Toronto, Saskatchewan, but it's an interesting event. But Tyler Carlson in net, I kind of cringed when I heard that. He impressed me. I've watched him when he played for Brampton. I've watched him when he's been a journeyman in the league, and he impressed me more in this game than he did in some of those other games. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of questioned at the start, if you're in last place, you're eliminated. You have a young goaltender in Facken who, maybe could use some reps, and again, what more or less amounts to a meaningless game. Why not give him a few reps? Why not do like you did last week where you play him for a half? I kind of don't understand. But Halifax.
I have one of the little melees here just to show show how much hatred there is there.
So now everybody throwing. David Brock. 36, Chuck and Knuckles with Warren Jeffrey, 2 veterans taking center stage. Jeffrey, some over the top rights. Brock, uppercut right. Brock goes down. And Jeffrey wants to get one last. Oh, it's Brock that gets a couple more in. David Brock cut out a rock, and he is throwing the knuckles on Warren Jeffrey, who made it a good bout. A spirited bout. And are we going to have a...
How much do they hate each other when they're already down and they're still firing punches at one another?
Right.
Pretty insane. But I just don't get some of the, like Halifax, sure, they were rolling. And Randy Stotts got back in the lineup, and he looks like he hasn't missed a game. Between him and Peterson, that's scary. Peterson going for his 100th point of the season, he got that easily. But, a little dipsy doodling. A lot of behind-the-back passes. Some of the ones Carlson looked pretty stiff on. Some of the shots he looked really great on. Hill. There's times, again, when he looks like he is lights out. And there's other times when he just looks like he's fighting everything. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence in going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and they, they're what, the 6th seed right now? So,
yep. Albany.
Yeah, so that's not going to be an easy trip. They've already did they play twice this year? I think they played just once.
Just once.
Okay. Yeah, and Albany did win that. They've kind of had Halifax's number, so but I guess
that was in the heyday of Albany, and I was in the little vacation. Yeah, that was in the vacation that Halifax had mid-season, and the heyday that Albany was on to start the year. So it was just coming to the tail end where things switched.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that'll make for an interesting first-round matchup.
Yeah, man.
For sure. I mean, hey, Halifax, I mean, they're not getting Toronto finally in the first round. So I'm sure they're pleased to not have to see the Rock the first round, having been
Well,
knocked
you
out
know
the last
that
couple
for
of
them to
years.
call this season, a success, they have to get out of the first round.
Absolutely.
No ands, ifs, or buts. Doesn't matter what they did in the season. They have to get out of the first round for this to be a success. They actually have to go further, but oh, there you go. I guess I should just keep this comment.
Just keep it up the rest of the way. No, but I think. I don't know that that's it. I mean, Colorado. I think. Obviously, there's tons of questions. You know, the rumors are going to start again. It's time to get someone else in there besides Pat Coyle, which again, we've already done this coaching carousel with Philly, with Rochester. We could very well be doing it if Halifax doesn't win their first round playoff game with Halifax. So. The pool is on the thin side. There are a few good names out there, but you really need to take a hard look and evaluate each team's situation to see whether it's really worth taking that risk to see if the grass is greener on the other side with a new coaching staff.
Right. I apologize for my internet. Am I lagging a little behind here, Mike?
You were a little bit before. You seem all right now.
Oh, okay. Well, gotta love it. Thank you, Rogers. When they have a monopoly, this is what happens. I can call somebody, but they won't care. Anyways, let's move on before my internet craps out again. Albany, New York. This was one that Albany needed because 5-game losing streak, you don't want to limp into the playoffs. This is one that New York needed. Mind you, they can still get in, but they had their destiny in their hands, and, they coughed up a furball. Walker, big game for him with 4 goals, 6 assists. Simmons, 4 goals, 5 assists, and Kurtz, 3 goals, 7 assists. Shine to clinch home playoff game. Teach scores 4 to set career high with 58 goals. I never like it when it's a 1-game series and Teat is on the other side. He gets hot, and you watch the rest of the playoffs from home. It just scares me a little bit. Mind you, then again, the other alternative is Fields gets hot, and you watch the playoffs from home, right? Hartley gets hot in net, and you watch the playoffs from home. It just, which is the lesser of two evils? I don't know. Anyways, let's look at the highlights and or the lowlights in some cases, and we'll come back to the game.
Albany is on the power play. Walker with the feed. They're looking inside for Simmons, and he scores. It is a power play goal for the guy that was hurt a moment ago outside of the floor.
They're running it's what we call a sneak play, where you just try to set something up out of the.
And they scored as a result with Longboat, the former Riptide player. Jeff Teat hasn't scored so far. Got the assist. It is Kiernan on the power play and scores. Back-to-back for Kiernan.
Weekend, we know Albany will be there. Will the Riptide be there as well? We'll see.
Another broken stick situation as Jay Thornburg plays defense, and that's tough. He goes against Simmons without a stick, but now the Riptide will get another opportunity to try to kill a penalty here.
Albany on the man up here. They are up by 4 over the Riptide. Started out up 5-0, and the low shot in for Kurtz. That's a power play goal.
Out a way to continue beating Doug Jameson.
Chikowski is anchoring along with Kostiuk from the outside. Power play goal. Who else? It's Jeff Teat.
So Will Johnson kind of just giving Dunkerley a bit of a rest, made a couple saves, gave up 1 goal, and now they put Dunkerley back in. And Ethan Walker says of this Albany defense is they get their sticks up in lanes and they're big and they're fast and they're athletic.
Walker blazing around Edwards. Walker wheels around. Hat trick for Ethan Walker. Wagner, Jakowski, others on Teets. It was the rookie Young for a moment who's been in the box. Teets around 1, goes low and scores!
Moving quicker, they just look like they're playing about 1.5 speed as they were in the first half.
Winning their 1v1 battles for sure. Here's O'Connor, Mitch. Inside for Tate. He delivers again. It's a new single season mark. Here is Tate, and I know Albany will not. Nearly snared by Nardella, slithering through. It is O'Connor downstairs. That was beautiful. Meanwhile, it's Simmons. Quarter goes for Albany with 5 to shoot. Kurtz makes something out of nothing from the outside, to the detriment of New York's improvement defensively. Seal's been quiet scoring tonight, hasn't cashed in. Scoring, gets it right on Cumich from Sundown and scores! Okay, Taggart Clark against his father who coaches Albany.
This is interesting because this is a quarter. That one squeaks through.
Simmons just got a hat trick, Mitch. Matisse on the feed. Goal! Jeff Tate, number 4 tonight. 24, also here on Long Island. Obviously, depends on the other results as well. Here's Walker, escapes that pressure, scores past Dunkerley. That could be the dagger.
Alrighty. When it was 11-4, I got to admit I was ready to flip that thing off and turn on the Rock game. And then when I looked and seen it was 11-8, I had to put it on another screen. I looked like central control last night. I had to, at one point, I had 4 TV screens going. It was hard to keep concentration on any one game in particular. You know, it almost got easier when all the games were over and I was just watching the Buffalo game.
Yeah. I mean, Riptide certainly did their best to make a comeback, but fall just short. It
brings me back to what I brought up last week, though, Mike. Dunkerley, is he the answer for the future, no matter where they play?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, you know, they flip-flop goalies a couple of times during the game.
They had no choice.
They
had to do something.
They didn't, but you know, I'm not sure you can blame it all on him because you know the offense got shut out in the first quarter. So you know, I mean,
yeah,
they're granted.
Well, again, if you stop teams,
they're not the only team
you stop 2/3 of their offense. Right?
Yeah, and I mean they're not the only team that is prone to slow starts, but I find it very odd that we seem to just be seeing it more and more often as the season's gone on, where we're just numerous teams have gotten off to slow starts and are forced to play catch up. And when you put yourself in that position, you're going to play things differently. You're going to make decisions differently. You know, stick might be a little tighter in your hand. All that factors in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a weird thing, but again, for a game that means this much, it's a little bit disheartening.
Yeah, to come out flat like that. So, but you know, for New York, it's been a problem that's plagued them a bit this year. Coming out slow, but you know, Albany's had the same issue. I think their second quarter is their lowest scoring quarter for them. You know, the other thing I guess I'd add is
right.
Albany power play decided to show up. The Albany power play decided to show up finally. Where's that been all year? So, you know, they were 3 for 3,
Isn't
I
that
think,
the
in the
truth?
first half. So, but hey, that's when you think about that, it's going to make Halifax's job that much harder because you're talking about the most penalized team in the league. Absolutely needs to play the most disciplined game of their season in order to get by Albany if Albany suddenly is sprung to life on the power play like they did in this game.
Can you imagine? Whole season they can't get it to work, and just in time for the playoffs, boom.
It's just, yep.
Poetic justice, isn't it? All right, before we move further into the Toronto-Saskatchewan game, just a reminder that this part of the show is brought to you by Dolan's.
When you're staying local and you want to watch a great game or just hang out with some great people, go to Dolan's Bar at 24 East Sellers Ave in Ridley Park, right off I-95 south of the Philadelphia airport. For over 65 years, Dolan's has thrived because of one reason: the amazing people of Philadelphia. Great music, great times, memorabilia, giveaways, great drinks, and great food. You never know when a former Philly sports icon walks through that door. You go to Dolan's at 24 East Sellers Ave, Ridley Park in the 19078. Tell PJ that EOP sent you. Go to dolansbar.com or follow them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok.
Absolutely. Dolan's is your place to be for all games. Go get a drink there. Go see PJ. Great place. Looking forward to getting back there in July when I'm up there for the Fan Cup down there. Whatever.
Excellent. Hey,
All right.
I'll add one more thing that Toronto's going to need to watch out for. If Rochester doesn't win this game, they're also going to need to be disciplined because New York's number 1 in the league on the power play. So,
well, anytime you throw Jeff Teat out there, again, but you got Kernan, you got O'Connor, you got a bunch of guys. So no,
but that'll come into even more into play with what you said about one game elimination.
Yep.
So,
leave it all on the floor, and boy.
So,
anyways, in a game that didn't mean anything to Toronto, Toronto comes out with a 12-11 victory. Schreibers and Matthews each net hat tricks, lead Toronto to a road win. Rush is eliminated from the postseason. Public enemy number 1 now is Mark Matthews, gone from the most beloved, to the most hated because of his comments in the press that he wanted to end Saskatchewan's season. So he took to the role of villain very well near the end of the game when he scored the game winner. And, just to the crowd, did the old Hogan thing, pointing out at them, and, he played it up. But this was a rough game. And I really don't know, especially if somebody went down, because they were gunning for Schreiber. No two ways about it. They were gunning for Schreiber. He was down, hurt a couple of times, limping back to the bench. And I thought, okay, now they'll take him out of the damn game. Nope, he's back out for another shift, running around circles. Then he gets hurt again, and he comes back out and back in again, running around in circles again. So I'm curious how much ice he's got on his knees today. Finally, Haustrauser couldn't take it anymore and went, bat nut crazy over at the Rochester bench, basically calling out anybody and everybody, reminding Messenger of the fight they had a couple of years back in which Messenger needed to go get some stitches. Did it have to come to this? Well, Rush is going to play for everything, right? And I have a feeling that part of the game plan was play as rough as you can so they back off a little bit because they don't want to. But something that the Toronto Rock defense showed me in this game that they hadn't shown me in seasons past was resilience. And you want stifling defense. Well, I don't think, with the exception of Triolo, I don't think any of their guys got a decent look in the second half. And Triolo, only because he's 17'9", and made most of these guys look like they were children, was able to do stuff with his stick higher up. But let's look at the highlights of this thing, and then we'll examine a little bit more.
Ball dirt to the middle, flip inside. Keenan's there, and he scores! Pound your chest, Saskatchewan. Ryan Keenan ties it at 1. Number 3 of the 2018 NLL Finals against Rochester. Here's Mike Triolo, drive our side, scores! Mike Triolo gets inside, and we're level at 2. Challen Rogers, 6 on the shot clock. Swim move on McClellan's behind the net. Dunk attempt. Chiliano doesn't know where it is. It's in the net. Schreiber, dunk attempt. Got Chiliano guessing, and it's 4-3. Toronto tried to cut towards the goal. Here's down. Little flip. Littner inside, and he scores. Dan Littner returns to Saskatchewan and delivers a goal. Matthews, Schreiber, little spin back. Now a swim move around Jay. Twister on goal, and he scores. There's the hat trick for Tom Schreiber. Partial break, Rush have numbers. Church off the bench, scores! Robert Church paints the top. Here goes Jake Boudreau in transition. Jake Boudreau trying to get to the middle, and he scores! Number 9 for 43. Jake Boudreau has tied it. Is it right back to him? Matthews one-on-one with Messenger. Flip pack. Dowick scores. Posted in, and Toronto is up 10-9. Far side this time. Rose just got it. Triolo behind the net. Dunk attempt, scores! Roll the highlight reel. Matthews with it. Little swim move around Bobby Kidd the third, and he scores. Mark Matthews puts one top shelf in the Rock League, 12-11.
And that's how it ended, 12-11. Anybody who says the boss's son is just there because he's the boss's son is nuts. Josh Dawick, 2 goals, 3 assists. Those 2 goals were both beauties. That second goal that was off the post and in, far side, gorgeous shot. But he set up a couple of things, set a lot of picks. And for a not big guy, he's not afraid to use his body. Setting up Lintner. Again, Lintner, not a big body, but is one of the few guys on that team that goes inside and continually creates havoc in front. Schreiber, it just isn't fair. The field style, being able to shoot from either side and just turning Chiliano inside out. The goal from behind the net where he had him going the wrong way with the fake and him the other way. It's unfair. As for Saskatchewan, Triolo, like I said earlier, had a monster game. Robert Church wasn't heard from in the first half. He started waking up in the third quarter, and then it became a little bit more, maybe they'll pull this off. But, for a team that wasn't playing for anything, Toronto sure looked like they were playing for something.
I think so. I think they wanted to send a message to the whole league that they mean business this year. So.
Well, Rose is also looking for that goalie of the year. I think he just put an exclamation point on that one. He had a great
and again to bounce back from the, we'll call it an excruciating disappointment of last year in the playoffs. They're laser focused and they want to erase those memories. So, and it could very well be that they have to go through the champs in the semifinals again. So,
yeah, it sure looks like it, unless something happens in the first round. At least they don't play Buffalo in the first round. No. I almost, there's something in me a couple of weeks ago. I was thinking somehow this is going to align. That they just can't. But we were saying that in that last week in the Rock game is in order to shake this, they have to beat Buffalo. They have to. Otherwise, there's always that. Well, you didn't face them, so they got to get the monkey off their back.
Yep.
When they won in 2011, and when they made it to the finals in 2010, they had to do that in single elimination games in Buffalo. I remember making the trip, and it wasn't a pleasant trip in Rock here in Banditland. But the Rock came out and wound up winning those games. and went on to further things, including a championship. This has got to be on the character building aspect, because they do that, and I guarantee you they play the next round even looser.
Yep.
Because until then, my only fear is that they play with very gripped sticks, or get goaded into stupid penalties, because they were doing that last night, getting goaded into dumb penalties, and Saskatchewan would score on the power play. They have a good penalty kill, but not, by any means 100%. So if you're going to get goaded into stupid penalties, especially in the playoffs, in one game eliminations or even 2 out of 3, it's not going to be a pleasant thing.
Yep. It'll be a concern no matter who they're playing, but even more so if it's New York.
Yeah. In Saskatchewan's defense, they didn't have the greatest of years. It was an inconsistent year, but they did put together a really good game against the number 1 team. They put together a fantastic game last week against the number 2 team. And this predominantly younger lineup that's going to stay together, mostly, there's an awful lot of upside to it.
Absolutely. So.
And the Keenan and Quinlan effect, I think, are going to be massive. Going to be massive in the upcoming seasons.
Absolutely.
All right. Before we move on, it's a reminder that this part of the show, I guess I'm running behind again. Sorry. This part of the show is brought to you by Cherry.
If you get hurt at work, in a motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or affected by criminal law, you call David R. Cherry of the Cherry Firm. Cherry Law Firm is here to fight for you and get what you deserve. Cherry Injury Law is a dedicated, well-established personal injury law firm built on the promise of aiding the seriously injured throughout the state of Pennsylvania. If you have been seriously injured in the state of PA by the negligence of another, and if you have questions for a Westchester or media personal injury attorney, please don't hesitate to call. Call 610-565-0300 or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Let David R. Cherry fight for your right. And again, that number is 610-565-0300 or go to cherryinjurylaw.com.
It's funny, eh? We've had no internet issues for weeks and weeks and weeks, and today, thanks, Rogers. They're busy trying to pay for the renovations over at Rogers Center with the Jays, so I guess they're going to try and collect more money from me for even higher speed internet. I don't know. Bear with me. I'm bearing with it. So, our next game on the agenda is, of course, Calgary and Panther City. Now, Panther City, this didn't mean anything to them because they clinched the night before with other mathematics that worked out for them. But Pace leads away with 3 goals, 2 assists as Roughnecks win the home finale in front of 14,424 at the Scotiabank Saddle Dome. Pretty amazing. Great crowd for a game that didn't really mean anything.
Well, I disagree that it didn't mean anything because, the outcomes affected a few things. Certainly, if Panther City had won and certain other teams had lost, they still had the opportunity to climb as high as the number 3 seed and host a first-round playoff game. So I think that would have been pretty huge for them, as much as we talk about the attendance issue there.
And
to be at home means you don't have the opposing team's crowd there. So so that it would have been
right.
Important.
And the league went.
I'm maybe they did.
Like the league went.
They did. Yeah. I'm not going to say they did or they didn't, but more importantly for Panther City, now the question
Could it be like COVID times and we put cardboard cutouts?
Maybe we could. Just for Panther City, they got
all the league, of all the different jerseys up there.
The Panther City needs to hope that one of those cardboard cutouts isn't Jonathan Donville. He left the game about halfway through.
Yeah.
with a lower body injury, and I don't know that we have an update on his status. So, but the loss obviously drops them down to the 7th seed, where they're going to have to go into San Diego now and try to pull off a miracle against a team that was 8-1 at home this year.
Well, they played them twice, and they played them tough both times.
They did. So hopefully
put an actual quiver into them. So if there's a team that can do it, again, without Donville, that's a huge loss. If Donville's in the lineup, they might. And Crawford healthy and Caputo, yeah, it's a possibility if the mood is on game. It comes down to that again. And I'm not 100% sure which Demood shows up.
True. And the other implication this game had really for Calgary is that win pretty much flip-flopped who was going to get in if Rochester loses today. So had Panther City won that game, we'd be talking either Rochester or Vancouver gets in.
Mm-hmm.
So this game was actually kind of the nail in Vancouver's coffin, unfortunately.
Right. All right, let's look at the highlights and see what went on, because it looked good for Panther City for a while, and then
point season, his first of his career. Pace gets a pick from Josh Courier. Pace stings it far side with some heat, and Calgary
to face shots, wants to play lacrosse. His numbers in his career so far speaks for himself.
Malcolm on Cornwall, bounce shot, and he scores. What a shot from Will Malcolm. Their manager, the junior Delta Islanders. Courier floats the top, step back, shoot, scores, pulled it short side, ties the game at 2. And up ahead. There's Hutchison. Shot scores, pick the top corner. Dylan Hutchison. One hand, that was Dixon, he couldn't handle it.
That's where they want Hayden Dixon, though. He's their bull down low.
On the run, scores! Is that Elijah Gaudreau? Brandon Good with 91 on hand, and then a heavy hit on Bennett Smith, knocked on the ground. And then Gauthier left all alone, and he scores. Calgary going to be very upset. There was no
coach of the Calgary Roughnecks. He talked about Bennett Smith being a big part of the future of this team.
Callum Crawford on the power play. 5-on-3, almost automatic. So Knox will have it. Move it up to Malcolm. Slow getting back on the floors. Calgary, Malcolm scores short side. Power play goal.
The idea of hot sticks. They haven't won 3 in a row all season long, Teddy. 2 in a row coming into this night.
Outside the restraining line. Postseason. Calgary going to work here 5-on-5. Dixon, big hand as he found that loose ball. Pace, King, scores! Good ball movement. Good loose ball recovery. And the Roughnecks.
A career high 65 assists coming into this game.
I think he's at 67 now, but Calgary has tied this game. Cook with a head of steam on Medeiros. Bulldog, step back, can't get his hands free. Shot, scores! Calgary leads!
Of course, it's 15 degrees 2 days later, typical Calgary.
So Panther City finds themselves down for the first time in a long time. Here's Jason Knox, scores, and they quickly tie it back up. Step back shot, put it wide. Will Malcolm battles for that loose ball, he gets it. Up top, heavy shot and a goal! Watched there by Elijah Gash, near side Pace. King to Pace, dive, scores! What a look! On cue, Tyler Pace was a tumultuous season that didn't quite go their way. Backdoor look, Pace scores! Rebound, but if Panther City can get a call timeout, they might be able to hold for one last shot. Here's King, backhand flip, Cook scores! That'll ice it!
And there it was. With all the announced crews that we watch, there's only a couple that really, I really get up for. And one, of course, is Teddy Jenner. Love his enthusiasm and his knowledge. The other one is actually John Abbott and Pat Gregoire. All the other ones, they do their job. But the ones who really have me riveted, I love listening to Teddy Jenner. You know, it's like I like listening to Jake Elliott. There's always something intriguing going on with Jake when he's going through his thing, and when them doing both Vegas and Vancouver, keeps me more intrigued. But yeah, I love listening to Teddy. Hell of a game, eh, Mike?
Yeah, definitely back and forth. Like I said, the key here, I think, was things almost kind of took a downward turn when Donville got injured for Panther City, and suddenly they went from being up 7-3 to trailing, and the offense just couldn't find another gear. So that's a little concerning, obviously, going in now that they have to go into San Diego for the first round playoff. But let's hope that Donville's okay and that they can find a way to function on all cylinders. But like you said, it's going to depend on how Nick Damoud,
hoping that's precautionary.
Which Nick Damoud shows up too. So
that's what I've been saying. Yeah, I just I've watched both the Nick Damoud who's dialed in and the Nick Damoud who is here and there, and they're two different Panther City teams when that happens. One plays much more relaxed. It kind of reminds me of Rochester when Hartley is playing and when Hartley isn't playing. Same idea. That are two different Rochester teams playing. So.
Yeah, and then on the other side, Calgary again already eliminated, but a chance to play spoiler, and you have to, in looking towards next season, you've got to think they're going to bounce back. It's there likely isn't going to be much turnover on that roster, so you're going to get a group of guys who are going to kind of get into year 2 under Josh Sanderson and Troy Cordingley, and I think that can only trend upward.
I also don't think they're going to start that poorly, because remember they had a terrible start.
They did. It's hate to say it, it's almost like the opening weekend loss to Rochester almost felt like it set the tone for the season, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, because they never really climbed out of it. There were moments where they got better, and then they come back down, and it just was like a heart chart. It was never up here, it was never down there, but it just enough to really keep it unsettled, and keeping this together a little bit more of, I guess, more offensive prowess will help. Not relying so much on Del Bianco and the transition game. But we'll see. Yeah. You're right. Another guy I really enjoy listening to is Pete Halliday. So, but few and far between. There's some guys I just, oh boy, it'll be a long evening. But one game left to go, Mike. And that is Buffalo and Vegas. A lot to play for here for Buffalo all of a sudden. And Byrne, Smith, huge games. 3 goals, 6 assists for Byrne. 2 goals, 10 assists for Smith to put him over that 100 point or 100 assist mark for the year. They breezed to a W. It's interesting to say that at the end of the game. Because if you were telling me that at the half when it was 5-3 for Buffalo, when Vegas was leading for most of the first half, I don't think anybody was saying anybody was breezing anywhere.
Right.
But let's look at the highlights and see exactly where Buffalo's, Air Buffalo, Air Transat, whatever, the Bandit Land airplane took off.
Against an opponent to be determined. Josh Byrne flying underneath. He comes open and he scores. 51 for Josh Byrne as he cracks things open 1-0. Fifth in Las Vegas after a long trip to the defensive end gets out of trouble.
That's a good stop there for Vegas. Chance here for Kirst.
And he buries it up high. They're on defense for Las Vegas.
Spencer Mellon out there as well.
Robinson over Kell's shoulder.
For a big fella, twinkle toes and some soft hands.
For much of the season because his goal scoring was down over the first 12 or so games. Really has reasserted himself, and oh my goodness, Janicano.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
Byrne and Smith up top. It's Byrne right now, 2 in the first half. Byrne around a pick. Byrne scores! With less than a second left, Josh Byrne nets the hat trick goal. Frazier tripped up, gets it back to Smith, feeds in Nanticoke, another one, and that's the record breaker for Dane Smith.
For the K-Hawks.
Byrne gets a screen from Cloutier, off to Smith, back behind the net, slam dunk. To Hogan Nanticoke. 99 assists, Robinson goes to get it, 20 seconds in the shot clock. Byrne to Smith, down low, Buchanan, and there's the 100. For the set of the shot clock. Hannah creeping in. Another one blocked. Hellier sneaks it past Vince.
Next season.
The Desert Dogs are trying to make one more run here. Sean Wesley beats that Vince. Final thought on Sean Wesley's 10th goal of the season. His family in attendance is Smith adds another one. Josh Byrne with the assist as another record is getting queasy.
And there it was. Well, again, when I talk about a goal with less than a couple of seconds left in the half, is usually a nail in the coffin. And again, that was the beginning of Buffalo's takeoff into the second half. Bludgeoning of Vegas.
Yeah, and I saw a stat last weekend during the Vegas Colorado game. I believe they just became the 4th team in NLL history to go through an entire season without scoring more than 12 goals in a game. I think the other 3 were Charlotte Cobras and a pair of Edmonton Rush teams in the early 2000s that weren't very good.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, they did
not from the past, isn't it?
Yeah, they did not reach 13 goals in a game this season, which, you know, it's kind of been the magic number. It hasn't been talked as much about later in the season than it was earlier in the year, but I believe the league had done some deep dive metric stuff and shown that 13 was kind of almost the tipping point, you know, that if you could score 13, your chances of winning a game were much, much higher than if you ended up below 13 goals for the game.
Right. Well, why don't we put up the standings and have a gander here of what just took place. Toronto finishes 15-3. San Diego finishes 13-5. Albany 11-7 in third. Buffalo 11-7 in fourth with the tiebreak to Albany. Georgia in fifth at 10-8 over Halifax, who finished 10-8. Panther City 9-9, and then of course the to be determined. New York is sitting in eighth right now at 8-10, but Rochester has the tiebreak if they win today and go 8-10 themselves, and that is how it is. So as it stands now, San Diego is going to face Panther City. Albany is going to face Halifax at home, and Buffalo is going to host Georgia, and Toronto is going to wait to see if they play New York or Vancouver. New York or Rochester.
For
the next Saturday's game. Going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting.
Definitely.
A lot of things still to take place today. 3 o'clock Eastern is the game. Philadelphia and Rochester in Rochester. If you are anywhere near the Rochester area, it is Fan Appreciation Day, and you'll want to get in there anyways and see this live and in color. I guarantee you, if I wasn't headed to the airport, I would be in Rochester as we speak, because this is a game that you would want to catch.
Yeah, and obviously, having played Friday night, the Nighthawks get a little bit more rest than if they were playing back-to-back days. But I think the key is going to be they're going to need to get a quick start again.
Fields and Smith. Fields and Smith.
Yeah, they need to be hot. And as much as Philly isn't playing for much, it's a chance to play spoiler. We've already seen some teams play spoiler this weekend.
Yeah, a lot of it.
So
nobody was going down without a fight.
Yeah, and no, the whole theme this weekend, was Vancouver had a chance to clinch, they failed. New York had a chance to clinch, they failed. Saskatchewan had a chance to clinch, they failed. So
Rochester had hardly any chance, and they're still here.
Yep. So
they're the only one who did the job that they needed to do to get to this point.
Yep.
And even that, it took 2 penalty shots, a meltdown by Georgia, and a big, strong finish by Ryan Smith and the Rochester Nighthawks for this to even happen. Otherwise, this would have been already over with.
So they're here. They need to seize it, and
it's in their hands.
If they don't, it'll be New York playing Toronto. But I guess the only other thing to add would be if Rochester's unable to complete, it might be because of Zach Higgins, and if Higgins can make 45 saves, he will set a new single season record for saves. Which will be.
Are you listening, Pat?
Which will be quite impressive. But it also means that Philly defense lets a lot of shots go in. Yep. So,
can you imagine though if it's Higgins that causes Rochester not in the playoffs?
That will be something. So,
you make sure next week when Pat's with you that.
A
little gift from me.
We'll call that out. Call that out.
It's amazing. Again, I am so proud to be with this bunch. These guys are fantastic. Stats guys, article guys, everything. All across all the time is number one for a reason. And I am very proud to be part of this organization and proud to be part of the Edge of Philly Sports Network, because this is growing to something that is absolutely unbelievable in how much and how many tentacles we have to cover just about everything.
Yep.
So stick with EOP Sports, stick with all across all the time, and we will get you through anything you need at any given point. And we are all very attainable and very reachable if you have any questions. Remember that we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on Thread, we are on YouTube, and we are at all times up to date and on point. We have our fingers always on the pulse of the situation. Remember to come back to our YouTube page. There will be more stuff up there, more press conferences, especially with the playoffs going on. We'll have more coverage. We'll be more in-depth, and everything that is pertinent to what you need to know, we will have for you as quickly as we can for you. Any last words, Mike?
Just looking forward to today's game. Looking forward to the first round playoff matchups next week. Obviously, we'll be on at our normal time next Sunday, 9 p.m. It'll be Shawn and myself with Pat kind of running the helm, and you yelling at us from 6-7 hours ahead.
Yeah, it'll be about 3 a.m. when the show is on. over in Prague Monday morning, and you know damn well I'll be up to, you know, just try and get that in on my
Pilsner in hand.
Pilsner in hand.
But,
I'll probably be
but-
sitting outside somewhere and you know, probably have a crowd. Like, what is this?
The last thing I'll add is, you know, for the fans from Philly who are tuning in, you know, obviously it was a disappointing season for the Wings. It's not over. There's a game today, but you know, you do have the number 1 pick in the draft, and there will be more lacrosse in Philly with your newly minted Philadelphia Water Dogs coming in for the PLL season starting in May-ish.
Absolutely, and I'm curious to see what Jamie Dawick is going to trade the number 2 pick for, because you know we don't ever use first round picks to pick anybody. We trade them for already found stars. I give you Mark Matthews for last year's first round pick. Pretty good first round pick, I would say. He panned out to be pretty good.
Well, I will piggyback off that and note that the newly minted Philadelphia Water Dogs have a certain goalie by the name of Dylan Ward. Perhaps the number 1 pick comes into play in a trade with Colorado for one Dylan Ward.
Yeah, could be. However,
I know. There's some logistics to be sorted out, but
I like your thinking, though, Mike. I like your thinking. Keep them on a cliffhanger. Again, next week we're back to a normal time at 9 p.m. Pat will be in my chair. Mike and Shawn will be doing the bulk load of the playoff coverage. And I will be back for the anniversary show the following week, again at 9 p.m. on Sunday night Eastern. Want to thank everybody for week in, week out being with us and for your patronage. We appreciate everything. It is our duty and our privilege to give you everything that we can. And we look forward to doing it week in, week out throughout the summer, through summer ball, through PLL, through the draft, and again through next season's NLL season, because it's just absolutely amazing everything that's going on. And this is just the ground floor. Things are going further and further up. We also have the World Box coming up in September. Lots of things to cover. I should be in Utica for a good chunk of that as well. So for Muffler Mike in Connecticut, I'm Gary Groob in Toronto. Wishing Shawn Slaght in Moose Jaw a speedy recovery. And until next week with these fellas, I can't wait to be watching you guys. Off to Prague I go. I got to get to an airport. So until then, take care. Keep your stick in your hands, and we will see you all again soon.